March 20th, 2020 at 10:25 p.m. The coward of the county has left the building. The gambler has given his last bit of advice. Lucille has broken one's heart one final time. And there was one final affair with the intents of only being daytime friends and nighttime lovers. This and more. Hello, everybody. Mike Guitar Player 07 here, coming at you live with another Vinyl Record video. And today is a disappointing day. Around 2:30, 3 o'clock this morning, for whatever reason I was still awake, and I heard the news today, oh boy. Kenny Rogers has passed away at 81 years old from natural causes. Only 2 celebrity deaths has really significantly upset me or affected me. And of the 2, Kenny Rogers was the bigger of the 2. There have been other celebrity deaths that I've been like, oh, that's quite disappointing, this, that, and the other thing. But really only 2 of them have really been like, shit, these guys are gone. Rather than Kenny Rogers, the other one being Chuck Berry. And Kenny Rogers, I guess, has the bigger impact because I had the emotional attachments with his music, and I was introduced to Kenny Rogers through my grandfather. We all know my attachment with my grandfather to music, and it's like, I guess, in a way, losing a piece of him, a piece of that, with the death of Kenny Rogers. So, but anyway, I figured I would pay homage and memorial and show some of the records that I have. I didn't pull out any of the Christmas stuff, and I didn't pull out any of the cassettes, but the CDs and vinyl records I showed, and they're in various piles based on whose collection they're in. And I'm going to start with my grandfather's vinyl of him. He had the most Kenny Rogers, and helped me grow my Kenny Rogers collection, knew how much I enjoyed him, and I know how much he enjoyed him. So the first one would be Kenny Rogers. This one had the hit Lucille that I referenced in my intro, but this also has the cover of Porter Wagner's The Green, Green Grass of Home. And there's not a single bad album that I've heard by Kenny Rogers, so all these are fantastic. Some of them I like more than others, however, there's not a single bad one. Kenny Rogers' Daytime Friends, another one I actually just made a reference to in the intro. Obviously, the hit was Daytime Friends, if you didn't gather that one. But he also covered Desperado by the Eagles on this, and this is one of my favorite Kenny Rogers albums. Rather than like comps when I want to just hear the hits studio album-wise, this is one of my top 2 albums. And I'm seeing the back cover of the other one, and this is the top one for me. Kenny Rogers, The Gambler. This is the one that everybody knows. So it has a hit, The Gambler. It has a hit, I Wish I Could Hurt That Way Again. She Believes in Me. This is a freaking flawless album. And what's cool is many of my grandfather's records didn't have any of the original inserts or any of that stuff, but this one does. This one has the original Kenny Rogers poster in it, which I really like, and I really like Kenny Rogers a lot. I was actually just spinning this Gambler album a week or 2 ago with my friend while playing air hockey before the coronavirus sarcastic happened. This is Kenny Rogers' album, Kenny. The hit off this one was Coward of the County, based on Hype Sticker. You Decorated My Life was also a single, but I'm not really remembering that song offhand. I've only listened to this album once, so. But I remember enjoying that. Then we got a couple albums with Dottie West. I don't know too much about Dottie West, but this is their album, Every Time Two Fools Collide. I've heard every single one of these albums at least once, except for one of the CDs, which I'll get into when I get there. But yeah, Kenny and Dottie did a couple albums together and had some hits, but I don't remember what they were truly offhand. Kenny Rogers and Dottie West, this is their album Classics. And before Kenny Rogers went on a solo career, he had a band called The First Edition. So this is their the first edition. Kenny Rogers in the first edition's album, Something's Burning. Has lyrics and all that, and a band photo there. Has a hit, Something's Burning. I don't know if Kenny Rogers in the first edition had a hit with the song Elvira, but they did a version on this album. I believe it was the Oak Ridge Boys that had the more popular version of that song, but they did a version of it as well. And then this is Kenny Rogers in the first edition Greatest Hits, which I actually saw another member in the VC recently show this. So I'm happy for that individual. Unfortunately, I cannot remember which one of you has received it, but I really hope you enjoy it because, you know, the songs Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town is fantastic. Something's Burning is fantastic. The entire album is fantastic. Reuben James is great, but those are the top three for me. Then my mom had one of his albums growing up, and this is the album Share Your Love. This was actually produced by Lionel Richie. There's actually a photo of Kenny Rogers and Lionel Richie. And funny story with Kenny Rogers and my mom. My grandfather obviously had all those albums, and my mom would listen to him and listen to it and all that, and enjoyed Kenny Rogers from a young age. For one of my mom's birthday parties, she wanted Kenny Rogers to show up, so she invited Kenny Rogers, had all the birthday cards and invites, and Kenny Rogers got his own one. Obviously, Kenny Rogers never got to see it, but it's a fun little story to go along with this painful situation in regards to Kenny Rogers' passing. Because as I said, I've never really been pained by a celebrity death quite like this before. Now for my records that I owned. And some of them that my grandfather had, I had, but then I sold or traded because I didn't need doubles of some of them. But I have Kenny Rogers' Love Lifted Me, which was one of his first solo albums, if not his first or second one, which is fantastic. We've got 10 Years of Gold, which features, which is two of the compilation albums I own, which features, or three, actually I have the first edition of Greatest Hits too, of stuff that he did with the first edition and his solo stuff. So it has like Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town, Reuben James from the first edition era, but it also has Lucille, Daytime Friends, Love Lifted Me from this album I just showed you. So there's that. Kenny Rogers' album Gideon, which I was the first one to put anything about Gideon on Discogs. This album does not show up on Discogs, so I had to put this in. So I guess this one isn't very popular, and I've only heard this album once, so I don't really remember any of the hits or what were the hits or any of that stuff on it, but I loved this album very much, so all these I'll be spinning in the very near future, so there's that. We got Kenny Rogers' Greatest Hits here. So it has his a little bit more popular hits because, I mean, the 10 Years of Gold kind of featured stuff that was lesser known. I mean, they were known, but not like some of the songs on this Greatest Hits album, such as The Gambler, Lucille, You Decorated My Life, so apparently that was a hit from the other album, not just a single. Reuben James, which was from the first edition days. Every Time Two Fools Collide. Long Arm of the Law, which is a fantastic tune. Coward of the County. Ruby, Don't Take Your Love to Town, which was a first edition tune. The Gambler, if I didn't mention that. And Emma at 8 Vinyl Low. Kenny Rogers has a song called Lady too. Just so you know. Emma knows what I'm talking about. Kenny Rogers' Love Will Turn You Around. This is when he started getting to the 80s. This is the stuff that I don't know as well as the 70s works and the 60s works, but there's that. Then we got Kenny Rogers' Eyes That See in the Dark, which this features a song that Islands in the Stream that he did with Dolly Parton, and if anybody follows Dolly Parton on social media, you will see the post that she made about Kenny Rogers this morning on her social media, so you can check that out if you want. And Barry Gibb actually produced this album, which I thought was interesting. As I said, I didn't pull out any cassettes or Christmas albums, but on CD I have the Greatest Hits that I just showed on vinyl and 10 Years of Gold. 10 Years of Gold actually I got from a collection of CDs. When working for my grandfather in his landscaping business, he would talk about me and my music and all that stuff, or would work when it got to the point where I was starting to work with him, because he had been doing it for like 7-something years, 9-something years when I started working with him. Talk about me, I would talk about my music. People would ask me what I do in college, this, that, and the other thing. And one day I got a bunch of country CDs from this one customer, and this was one of them. And this was my first Kenny Rogers CD. So I was very excited to have that, and bringing it full circle with my grandfather relations to Kenny Rogers again, and then the final one. Alright, my phone glitched out a little bit. The final CD I have is from my grandfather's CD collection, which is a Kenny Rogers She Rides Wild Horses from 1999, I believe. Yes. This is the only one I haven't heard yet, because I'm still going through my grandfather's CD collection and listening to everything that I've received. But this is now high up on the priority list, and probably one of the next things I'm listening to, if not the first of these Kenny Rogers things that I'm going to be listening to. So, yeah. So, sorry this video isn't as upbeat and all that as I usually am, but it's more of a downer kind of day in regards to the whole Kenny Rogers things. I read the news, kind of just put my phone down and just was like ready to sleep, and I didn't fall asleep for another hour and a half at least, just thinking about it. As I said, I've never been affected by a celebrity death like this before. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Feel free to put your thoughts about Kenny Rogers down below if you have any. Or if you know anything or want to share anything in regards to Kenny Rogers, feel free to put it down below. I'm sure I'm not the only one affected by the death of Kenny Rogers. If anybody wants to talk or put anything, feel free. Thank you guys for watching. Keep on spinning that wax, and I will see you in the next Final Record video, when I will be a little bit more upbeat and not as depressed given the circumstances. Alright, see you guys. Thank you very much for watching. Y'all rock.